Hello, hello. This is Kenya Rahmaan, author and founder of the Child Support Hustle. I hope you are doing well this Monday evening. I'm doing pretty good. Thank you. I'm going to hold on just for a second before I get started. If you were on here yesterday, I did this. I did this video yesterday, but we had technical difficulties. The internet kept going in and out, and my son tried to salvage the video, but he could not fix it. So bless his heart. Thank you, baby. So hi D. So I'm going to do make a new video. I just because the information is important. Of course, I feel it is, or I wouldn't do this at all. So of course I have to fool my light. So bear with me, guys. My mom is going to say, "You always got food with that light." I'm saying, "Mom, well, you know." Hi, Fred. Yeah, I had to scrap that whole thing yesterday, but thanks for everybody that stayed on with me. And I think Fred, you were here. I think maybe you were there, D. So we're just going to jump right in. So recently, everybody, the politicians, the public, the Biden administration, I want to say maybe even before Donald Trump left office, he may have even been talking about forgiving some student loan debt. Well, Navient, I think that's how you pronounce it. They're one of the largest lenders in the country. So recently, they forgave or they settled on debt forgiveness for 1.85 billion for lenders. So this video, I want to talk about how that settlement was reached, how the agreement was reached, and I want to compare it to why those same reasons can be used and should be used, and why the government should forgive government owed child support debt. So according to NavientSettlement.com, these are the facts of the settlement. 39 state attorneys general announced that Navient will provide relief totaling 1.85 billion. The settlement will be paid to resolve allegations of widespread unfair and deceptive student loan servicing practices. The settlement will also resolve allegations of abuses in originating predatory student loans. More claims against the company started around 2009, accusing the company of lying to borrowers, claiming that they would assist in helping to find the best repayment options, but instead, quote, steered struggling student loan borrower. I had trouble with this yesterday, so I'm just going to say lenders, student loan lenders, into costly long-term forbearances instead of counseling them about benefits of more affordable income-driven repayment plans, end quote. There, of course, were stipulations that apply to these forgivenesses. That's no surprise. The article states that the attorney generals claimed that the interest that accrued because the Navient's forbearance steering practices was added to the borrower's loan balances, pushing borrowers further into debt. Additionally, had Navient really helped borrowers as they promised, repayments would have been reduced to $0 per month, provided interest subsidies, and helped attain forgiveness of any remaining balances after 20 to 25 years of qualifying payments. That's a mouthful. So before I want to give a full disclaimer. I fully support forgiving student loan debts, especially when there's some shady borrowing practices going on from the lenders. I mean, everybody can do with a fresh start, especially when you don't know the terms and you're preyed upon by these sneaky banks. So, but I want to stop right there, and the companies and compare these violations to the basic child support agencies across the land. I'm going to use Georgia and Tennessee as examples because these are two of the 32 states that the borrowers were affected in the settlement. I chose Tennessee because the governor just signed a law to finally use the nearly $1 billion that they receive in TANF block grants to spend. They're going to finally use that for their low-income citizens. I did a video about that. They passed a law. It just went in effect this month. Just this month. The video, the link is in the description. But they have been hoarding all of this TANF block grant money. So they're almost at $1 billion. So now they are implementing a program to help their low-income families. So I'm going to use them. And I chose Georgia because Georgia is a state that's constantly in the news bragging about their court program that they offer parents. Accountability court is what they call it, which is nothing but more than modern day slavery court and a debtor prison system. If you don't sign up for this court, you're going to jail. And I also did a video on that too. But I mean, they're always bragging about that system, you know, taking pictures and in the news and kissing their own ass and all that kind of stuff about this program. When it's nothing, I mean, the parents don't have a choice. You go to this program or you're going to jail. So compared with the first violation committed by Navient, the interest that accrued based on how the customer service reps directed borrowers increased loan balances, which pushed borrowers deeper into debt. The child support system creates debtors out of parents for a fake debt. How's the debt fake? When parents are tricked, coerced, or bullied into agreeing to pay child support through the state, most parents start off indebted to the government. Now, remember, when I talk about child support in my presentations, if you read my articles, read my book, or anything like that, I'm talking about Title 4D or welfare child support cases, not cases that have went through divorce court or a private child support case. This is only for those that are Title 4D. So when they're sued, when these parents are sued for child support through the family court and are found guilty, mostly without a fair hearing. Most parents that go through the Title 4D program and found guilty in court do not receive a fair hearing. To prove abandonment or failing to provide for their child, parents, again, they start off indebted to the state for child support arrears. Let's say that a parent pays or is ordered to pay $300 a month in support, and the agency charges the parent current support, plus they go back 15 years because states can go back to as far as the birth of the child. They can go back that many years. The parent that goes to court is now on the hook for $60,450 on day one after when he goes to court for child support. He's indebted right off the rip. That's whether he, I'll get there. So unlike student loan debtors who are steered into signing contracts that accrued interest and increased loan practices, Tennessee and Georgia and nearly every other parent everywhere, the state these parents were forced into non-contracts without full disclosure of what they were signing if they agreed. I'm sure they did not agree to interest and punishments that that were forced on them if they missed a payment. Most were not given the opportunity to submit evidence that they were providing support, whether it was in kind or financial, for their children. So if they were just giving the mother money without that support order, most judges were not allowing parents to present that evidence. So they were not offered forgiveness in cases where they did not know the child existed. A lot of these cases, they are established using default judgments. So these men didn't even know sometimes that these kids were alive, and they still were on the hook for this debt. Men were still charged tens of thousands of dollars, even in paternity fraud cases, which is becoming more prevalent, more known about because of social media and because DNA testing is more approved now. I mean, it was more common than what it was back in like 95, 90, 96. Uh, there's cases where there's no service and they're still allowed to be collected on, even though those cases are no good. They're fraud. Hey, shut up, fam. Hey, fam. Evidence and research has shown that these parents and people were struggling, but there was has been no relief offered to them. So all this advocacy with the ACLU, the Biden administration, Senator Warren, Senator what's his name? I can't remember. He's been he's an independent. I cannot remember his name. He ran for president. But all these senators that are screaming and yelling about, students need to be forgiven this debt so that they can get a fresh start. They should be doing the same thing for these parents who are bogged down by this child support debt that's owed to the government. Even though states are supposed to offer some type of debt forgiveness program, most of them have something on the books, but they do not honor what they have on the books as far as debt forgiveness programs. In fact, according to the Federal Office of Child Support Enforcement, Georgia does offer a debt compromise program, and the statute states that the child support program has the authority to waive, reduce, or negotiate the payment of state-owed arrears for administrative child support orders. The officials have to determine that there is a good cause for non-payment or that enforcement will result in substantial or unreasonable hardship to the parent or parents responsible for support. Courts have discretion in applying or waiving past due interest owed on arrears. So they have to go back to the very court that put them in arrears in the first place to ask for forgiveness. And let's see, Georgia openly brags about operating debtor prisons. So I don't think they'll be waiving, reducing, or negotiating away any state-owed arrears. Likewise, between 2016 and 2020, they only reported 3 cases where they allowed TANF applicants to not sue for child support because they were approved of a good cause claim. And those good cause claims, they have to be cases of domestic violence, abuse, things like that. They only approved 3 in 4 years. So in every other case, they forced the custodial parent to sue for child support. And if we look at the courts, I don't see them waiving past due interest. In fact, when I was researching for this video, I was looking, and child support modifications, you remember when the pandemic first hit, everybody was getting relief on rent, just relief everywhere, cell phone bills. And so people were asking or calling for relief on child support payments because people weren't working. We couldn't even go out. And so the answer from the agencies, from the government, was to file a modification. Now, as long as I've been doing this, I only knew 2 circumstances that a parent could file modifications. That's if there was a change in circumstance, or after 3 years, it was automatic. There was never a fee attached that I have ever seen to filing a modification, except in Georgia. They charge $100 for filing a modification. It's non-refundable. and the decision can take up to 6 months or more, and that's it. So I tweeted, I said, "Is this your policy?" And I tagged or at the Federal Office of Child Support Enforcement, like, "Do y'all know this is going on?" Of course, I didn't get anything back, but I'm going to still inquire about that. Why would you? And it's not for low income parents. They have a income threshold. But if you're not supposed to charge parents for a modification, I've never seen where they have authorization to do so, because we know that if they could charge for a modification, everybody would charge for that, because they don't care about parents. They lock parents up. They do whatever to paying parents that owe child support. So they'd be charging for a modification as well. So why is Georgia getting away with it? I don't know what you mean about Cali, but type your question. I'll come to the comments. I get lost. If I go there, I can't concentrate over here. It's a long story. But yeah, Georgia's charging $100. So if you're in Georgia, or if you know somebody in Georgia, ask them, why are they charging? I want to know. We need to know. Inquiring minds need to know. So let me see. So they're not going to be waiving anything if they're charging for a modification. If you got sick with COVID and you file a modification, don't have no money, well, you can't file it in Georgia unless you got $100 that you're not getting back. That's some bullshit. So we can see that they don't waive TANF debt because in 2020, Georgia reported that parents allegedly owed nearly $231 million in TANF debt. So clearly the debt forgiveness program is not working. So that's a fraud, just like how they force parents to agree to participate with the program and how they force parents into long-term payment plans. We can't call them repayments because the parents never borrow any money or borrow child support money to pay back or welfare money to pay back. They never borrow anything. So it's not repayments like they do with the settlements for the student loan debtors, because again, they never signed a contract. If you ask most parents that have a TANF case, they'll tell you, I never signed a contract to say I would repay anything. They don't have a contract. And we know that they didn't agree to 12% interest on a late payment. But the student loan debtors agreed to those conditions. So because they got scammed or whatever, they're being let off the hook. So that's one comparison. So NavientSettlement.com stated that the company allegedly originated predatory subprime private loans to students attending for-profit schools and colleges with low graduation rates. They allegedly knew that a very high percentage of such borrowers would be unable to repay the loans. They made risky subprime loans as, quote, an inducement to get schools to use Navient as a preferred lender, end quote, for highly profitable federal and prime private loans without regard for borrowers and their families. And many of these borrowers were unknowingly ensnared in debts they could never repay. These accusations should sound very familiar because although they're not identical to what the government does as has perpetrated against parents in the company known as child support enforcement, they are almost the same. And make no mistake, child support is a business. It's not a government agency or anything. Child support is a company. That's how they're allowed to get away with what they're doing to parents. Fake debt, no contracts, suing in court. That's what companies do, for-profit companies. Just like Navient preyed on a target population of naive students who didn't know anything about subprime loans and high interest rates, the government targeted low-income single mothers receiving welfare benefits. Most mothers had little education about civil, if any, about civil complaints and were likely unaware that they were assigning their rights to child support payments over to the government and filing a civil lawsuit against their child's father. I'm guilty of that. I did not know that's what I was signing. No clue. So they target, just like Navient targeted naive students, so did the government. Students would be enticed by increased loan amounts, and temporary low interest rates. Likewise, mothers were too enticed by $50 or more increased on the welfare check, and that was the incentive. And if you're struggling and you're only getting a few $100s a month, any extra money just to sign, oh, can you sign this? You're going to say yes, an incentive. They're not going to tell you all the fine print. And why would you read it? Because you trust what you're signing. It's your caseworker, but you shouldn't. If there's any young moms out here listening or watching this, or you know somebody that's going through it, don't sign anything without reading it first. From a caseworker, from anybody, even if the benefits, you need those, sign everything. I mean, read everything before you sign it. Because they do not care about you or your family or your children. They don't care about you. You are a number, and you are there so they can get money for the state, so they can get incentive money. So sometimes it's just not worth it to sign what they have in front of you. And just like Navient knew that students would be unable to repay these high interest loans, Tennessee and every other jurisdiction knew that most low income fathers would not be able to pay, once they were sued, would not be able to afford the payments or the debt that had accrued or was going to be charged to them when that child support order was established. So we use the same example with the $300. Parents would start off with less in debt than in Georgia than in Tennessee, because there was a bill passed in 2017, Senate Bill 993, and that was introduced by Representative Antonio Parkinson. Hey, Representative Rep Parkinson. He had us down for a town hall in 2017. He did a town hall talking about child support, and we were invited there to participate. That video was in the video section. Oh, the content. Somebody had recorded it. So he passed this. He introduced, and his bill was passed. So in Tennessee, they can only go back 5 years. So if you are in Tennessee and they went back after 2017 and you were charged retroactively for child support longer than 5 years, then you should contact them, and whatever they charged you over 5 years needs to be erased. So unless there's a good cause or it's in the interest of justice, they should not go back past the 5 years. So if the parent starts off with the $300 a month and starts off 5 years retroactively, the debt that they are going to owe the government is $20,000, $20,160. And I don't know about you, but I don't know people that just walk around with 20 grand somewhere stashed for a debt that they knew nothing about. And the government knew that when they set up this child support program. So just like Navient knew that their lenders weren't going to be able to pay this money back, so did the government when they set up this Title 4D program. In fact, according to a journal written by the former commissioner of the Federal Office of Child Support Enforcement, Vicki Tereski, and her colleague Maureen Waller, most unpaid child support arrears are owed by non-resident parents who reported incomes below $10,000 per year. They knew what they were doing. Nearly all parents who fall behind on child support payments have unstable employment and low earnings. A significant number have a history of incarceration. Lower earning parents are expected to pay a much higher share of their incomes towards child support. And this is from the commissioner. She's the former commissioner, but this is from her. And they knew this back a long time ago, before this law was passed. So if they're forgiving it and rallying and calling for all the student loan debt forgiveness, they need to do it for government owed child support debt, because the same thing that the lender did to these students, they did to parents. The authors wrote that, quote, charging interest, fees, and costs for paternity testing, case processing, and court costs, calculating child support retroactively to the child's birth, and seeking Medicaid reimbursement for childbirth costs all contribute to unrealistically high child support orders and result in debt balance as soon as the order is established, end quote. So you're in debt off the rip. And thanks to the Bradley Amendment, that debt is not erasable. Is that a word? Erasable. It's not. They can't go back and erase it. So you're stuck. Parents are stuck with that debt. So we need to repeal the Bradley Amendment as well. We need that debt erased, and we need to repeal the Bradley Amendment. It has to go. So translation, the government knew and knows that by charging defendants child support retroactively under false pretenses almost guarantees that they will accrue a debt that they will more than likely never be able to pay in full. That is eerily similar to what Navient has agreed to pay its victims for doing to them over the years. Additionally, the settlement stated that Navient made those risky loans without any regards to the borrowers and their families. Now, we know child support, they swear. Every time somebody defends the child support system, or you talk to a caseworker, or you see them online, they swear it's for the children. But you know, a system, a business operating the way that it does not care about the children, never has, never will. Somebody told me, it's always a debate here and there. But you need to pay off the debt. If you made the debt, even if it's child support, you need to pay it off. I said, why would you pay off a fake debt that's going to go to the government that the child will never receive it? That's been said over, and you can't even say it anymore. And you can't say it anymore. It's been said that much. But I'm gonna say it one more time. The child will never receive the money. So what's the point except to give the government a revenue stream? Even though the government and child support program supporters brag, I just said that. The Urban Institute conducted a study that proved what most parents caught up in the child support hustle know about how devastating the system is for children and families. The researchers found that when parents in California were granted child support debt relief, the following happened. And we know this is going to happen. Parents were empowered to support their children. When that debt was gone, they wanted to take care of their kids. That they could get the money, and they knew the money was going for their children. If you're paying a debt to the government and it's not going to your children, who's going to pay it? I wouldn't. And that's what the income tax, when they offset the income tax refunds, it's $1,200 taken, or whatever your tax refund is, and then the mom or the dad, that the custodial parent, gets a check for $5 damn, then what's the point of filing taxes? You don't get it. Your child doesn't get it. So what's the point? Because the child support debt, there was a constant conflict between the parents who participated in the study that they did. So by removing the arrearages, the co-parenting relationship became better because they weren't arguing over where the money was going. He's saying he's paying, but she's only getting $5. He's paying $200. Of course they're arguing. An anonymous parent said that, quote, "The relief program made me see at the end of the tunnel, there will be a better life for me and my kids." Well, he probably got paid to say that. Essentially, I don't know if he got paid to say it, but I mean, if somebody helped you get rid of some debt, no matter how, you're going to be like, "Oh, thank you," but you shouldn't even have been in debt in the first place. Essentially, 35 AGs around the country feel that families of people who signed contracts to pursue an education and who were preyed upon by grimy, predatory lenders deserve better protections and retribution than families with low-income parents who signed no contract, authorized no loan, and yet are being charged 12% in Florida and Georgia, 12% interest on a fictitious debt created out of thin air. Something is wrong with this picture. And nobody's even saying anything. They say child support, the child support program is one of the best operating one, or the most successful government program almost ever. And nobody is even talking about, you don't ever hear them, except for these little counties like Cobb County down in Georgia with their little debtor prison that they have operating down there. But very rarely do you see the government talking about, "Oh, this program is so grand and we're, the kids are doing so great." They don't talk about that because they know that they're stealing this money from these kids, and they're stealing this money from these parents, and they're stealing parents' freedoms. It's like their dirty little secret, but it's not a secret anymore. Tennessee and Georgia claim to have debt forgiveness programs. Tennessee, like Georgia, claim to have a debt forgiveness program that parents can apply for in order to seek relief of the outrageous debt they are forced to pay off. The Office of Child Support Enforcement says that the state is able to compromise state debt on an individual case basis. Each case must be evaluated individually and must have the approval. Listen to who they have to get the approval. An individual just coming in, working a 9 to 5, already screwed around by the system. So I'm going in, I need to some of this debt knocked off. I need to buy a house. Y'all mess my credit up. I have to get the approval of the child support commissioner, the comptroller, and the governor's office. To qualify to get approved for their debt forgiveness program, you have to have that's like having a pardon from the damn governor, like you on death row. What the governor's office? Are they kidding? That's a lot. That's a lot of offices to forgive a debt. Like, what the hell? But what can we expect if they hoarded almost $1 billion from their citizens in welfare grant money, TANF grant money they've been getting all these years? They almost have $1 billion. And now they're going to help out. Like, that's some shit. Like, why aren't people like raising hell? Like, these people are out here hungry, homeless, everything. We pay our taxes. They didn't make us stop paying taxes because they stopped the welfare as we knew it, like Clinton said. Our taxes didn't drop, but these states is able to save $1 billion for a rainy day, and nobody says shit. And the child support program is profitable. Not just, I'm just using Tennessee and Georgia. You already know why. But in 2020, for every dollar spent on the child support program, the return on investment in Tennessee was $7.91, $1. In Georgia was $7.87. That's more proof that Tennessee does not forgive government owed arrears. Oh, more proof can be found in the amount of arrears owed. Over $430 million was owed by parents, and I'm willing to bet that if they did submit an application, it's somewhere collecting dust. I know the governor's not looking. It hasn't even made it to the governor's office. It's still sitting at the commission, the child support commissioner's office. It didn't get to the governor. So I made the video, because I wanted to do a compare of why we need child support debt forgiven that's owed to the government. If they can sit out here and rally and, get all these people behind them and all that kind of stuff to forgive this debt, and apparently they made Navient settle for $1.85 billion, then they need to do that for child support debt that's owed to the government. That will never benefit children. It's going to help the families. It's going to help non-custodial parents. It's going to help the family as a whole. And it needs to be done. So, of course, my petition is in the description. Sign it, please. If you haven't already, share it with your friends and family. Hopefully you'll share this video. And just if people, I know a lot of people say, well, the government, that's still child support. You still need to pay it. But this is when you go more in depth to what really is going on, just with the child support system, period. People, sometimes they'll get a different perspective, and then they change their mind on what they think child support is, to what child support really is. Everybody, almost everybody is affected in one way or another by child support. And it's mostly not positive. It's really negative, especially what we got going on now with this pandemic and people not working, or if they are working, they're underemployed. You got the working poor. There's not many programs at all to help non-custodial parents. If you don't have children living with you or in your custody, there's really no programs. And even if you do have children in your custody and you live in Tennessee, you shit out of luck. So yeah, sign the petition, please, and share it. We're almost at 3,000 signatures. We don't need a lot more than that. Trust me, they're not going to be paying attention to 3,000 signatures. We need 50,000, something like that. Cali. Okay, so let me see exactly what they told me. What, Fred? Why? How are they justifying? If you're still on here, why did they say that they're charging $100? Ask them for a statute that says that, where they're allowed to say that, to charge that. I have never ever seen or even heard of anybody being charged to file a modification. No, official. That Cali does not charge for a modification. I've never heard of a state charging for a modification. Price gouging, definitely. The state gets paid. But I mean, the government gets paid too. They're all in it together. The state gets paid federal, they get paid incentive money. But when it all comes down to it, the federal government is the one the federal government is the one that's holding the pocketbook. Everything goes through they issue the money, the budget, and then it comes down to the state. Hell yeah, Keith. The government is doing it. Yes, they need to end license suspensions, all of that. Fishing license, gun license. I saw somewhere, oh shoot. I posted, I shared it on Twitter. This was that in Tennessee too? I'm about to look it up real quick. I'm pretty sure Tennessee is doing the most. Tennessee is doing the most. They won't even let people vote in Tennessee if they owe child support. So they suspend your license, you can't get to work, and then they send you to jail because you can't pay your child support, and then they blame you because you can't pay your child support, but you don't have the means, you can't get the work, and then you got a record, so you don't get a good job, and then you can't pay what they say you're supposed to pay. Like it's a endless cycle, and they do it on purpose. It's on purpose. And then once we expose them, they'll stop doing it until the next time. Like with any scam, any hustle, anything like that, they got busted. So now they're trying to clean up, and they're trying to do it. Like I said this in another video, they're trying to do it to where they don't look like they did anything wrong. And I feel, this is just my opinion, I feel that they're doing it this way so that they don't face a bunch of class action lawsuits. And I was thinking about that some more, and this system is so damaging, and people would be entitled to so much money because it not only affects the parent, it affects the children too. So not only would the parents be entitled to settlement money because of this child support system, the children could come back and sue because the money was not given to them. So I just think it would, if they admitted the wrongdoing that they've done for generations, I think it would bankrupt the United States. So I don't think they'll ever come out, but they'll do, like, I think what they're doing, and this is my prediction, I don't know if it's right, but y'all let me know what y'all think. With the child tax credit, and I did the video on Manchin when he said no go, and so the Build Back Better bill did not go through, and I know it was other stuff in that bill, but the key thing that was in that bill was the child tax credits. And when he said no, that was the key thing that he said no about. He did not want to give those tax credits to parents without any strings attached. Basically saying, here's some free money and you don't have to work for it. Here's some free money and you don't have to sue for child support. Here's some free money and you don't have to do anything. That's how he was looking at it, because instead of him, not just him, it wasn't just him. Instead of them looking at it like a tax credit, they were looking at it like welfare. And so to issue that money like they were doing for the pandemic, during the pandemic, if they kept that going and making it permanent, they were bringing back welfare with no strings attached. So I think this is my prediction. I think they're going to do that, and they're not going to attach the filing for child support mandate when they do it. And that's how child support is going to be reformed. They're not going to make low-income mothers sue for child support like they have in the past when Clinton filed. So let me know. That's my prediction. Let me know if you think that's right, or but I think everybody that's in, if you haven't already, got out of it, closed your case or whatever, unless you have a case for it to be closed, or you didn't get proper service, or you got, there's all kind of stuff that people say they can do, they have the paperwork or whatever. But as far as like going forward, that's what I think is going to happen. I'm still trying to think. I'm looking at my Twitter, but I think it's Tennessee that they won't let you vote. Of course, my Twitter page ain't coming up. Child support in Memphis is bad. Child support, somebody asked where I think it's bad. I think my top 3 worst states with child support is Michigan. Oh my gosh, Michigan. Everybody at the FOC, anything to do with child support, they all need to be fired. Everybody. I think Ohio, my state, my home state, everybody need to go. They're awful. I can't say Tennessee just because Rep Parkinson is there and he at least tried to do something. But I can't, I don't live there, so. And New York is bad too. Let me see. But they all suck. I have not came across one child support agency where I was like, oh, you know what? They do a great job. They go above and beyond. They really look out for parents. They really,